Let's get into it. Oh, by the way, if you guys want to help us avoid these technology problems, which are rampant on this channel, because I have an 8 GB refurbished laptop that is 5 years old, you can donate any amount that you would like to. Links in the description to our Buy Me a Coffee page. There's a tab that says wish list, and you can add any amount that you like to the laptop fund there. All right, and that would help make this so much easier. I calculated that if every person who watched the live stream, basically anybody who's going to watch this live stream, about 165 people or whatever, if every person donated, what, a few bucks, 20 at the most, something like that, I'd be able to buy that laptop tomorrow, and we would not have these problems next week. But that means that everybody would have to go and donate, but that's okay. It's not what this channel is about. This channel is about getting out the information, and I believe we could do it much more effectively if we had the technology that we need, but right now we don't, so we're doing what we can. We're struggling, we're fighting, we're getting through it. But if you want to help us out, check out the links in the description. Turns out there lies behind the modern Bible version controversy a dark and ancient conspiracy that is undermining Christianity at this very moment. My name is Joseph Armstrong. Welcome to the Bible version conspiracy. Looking forward to making this a piece of StreamYard that can just play instead of having to read this every time. That'll be nice. Please take a moment right now to like and share this video. Subscribe if you enjoy King James onlyism with a side of conspiracy. It will take you less time than it takes to read any verse from the Message Bible, and it won't give you the same bad aftertaste. Get sucked into the conspiracy rabbit hole with us every Friday night. Check out the links in the description for more information, which has been erased from my memory, things I've apparently forgotten. Help us go full-time, spending long nights with the skeletons in James White's closet by checking out the links below. Tonight's live stream is brought to you by our co-conspirators, of which there are, if I remember correctly, there's 7 or 8 of them right now. That keeps us being able to use StreamYard at all. So, thank you. This is brought to you from the co-conspirators. Sorry, I didn't mean to have the comment up there on the screen the whole time. My email is back, just in case you want that. Let's see. If you two have considered supporting us toward our goal of exposing the Bible version conspiracy full-time, we encourage you to pray about it first, and then check out our Buy Me a Coffee link in the description. That is our place where you guys can send us love, and where you guys can send us monthly support of any monetary value, any at all. Tonight is going to be hard for me personally. I would like to read a few things first, and then I will try to admit something that I have. Actually, let me admit it right now before I forget. There, that's a little better. I have idolized Dr. Kent E. Hovind of Creation Science Evangelism and his seminar series, his debate videos, his topical series listen to all of his college courses that were available on YouTube, which when his channel was on YouTube was all of them. And tonight's not easy for me at all. But that being said, I have read the introduction. Sweet. And I'm going to pray briefly for the live stream. We're trying to work out the prayer list thing like we have been doing, because it takes a lot of time on a live stream that only happens once a week. So let's pray briefly for the stream. Dear God, thank you for tonight, and thank you for the many things that are blessings around me that I take for granted. Thank you for this stream. Thank you for the potential that it carries. Thank you for all the listening ears that are tuning in tonight. And please help me with tonight's topic, Lord. Give me the words that need to be spoken. And if evil lies here in what we're talking about tonight, please help us to do what we can to take a bite out of it. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Let's see. We're still trying to figure out a good time for a weekly co-conspirators only live stream. I'm thinking maybe Tuesday or Wednesday night. I've heard back from one co-conspirator about that. I know the other co-conspirators should be watching this. If there's a night that works best for you, please let me know. It will be a private or unlisted video that I will be providing links for as we go in probably the co-conspirator chat or in the co-conspirator members only posts where you guys can access those. But please let me know what the best time for you would be. I'm thinking 10 p.m. on another night. So I'm actually going to have to move this here and put this here. Hopefully that works. I really hope that works. Alrighty. So $500 promise. We'll do a live stream every night when we reach $500 on our monthly Buy Me a Coffee co-conspirator donation list. So putting that out there, if you guys enjoy, like I said, if you enjoy your King James onlyism with a side of conspiracy and a dash of sarcasm, then head on over to buymeacoffee.com and sign up, become a member. I think there's an option you can do like $1 a month. So then you can just be like, boom, in. And you can join us for the things that are more exclusive that we do that surround this live stream. And I try to send out updates as often as I can. For kids under 5, it's not easy. It's not easy. But we do what we can. Something that we all need to bear in mind, guys. Let me read you some scripture that I feel is applicable to our talk tonight. Unto the angel of the church of Ephesus write, These things saith he that holdeth the 7 stars in his right hand, who walketh in the midst of the 7 golden candlesticks. We're reading Revelation 2, verse 1. I know thy works, and thy labor, and thy patience, and I know that thou canst not bear them which are evil. And thou hast tried them which say they are apostles, and are not, and hast found them liars. And hast borne, and hast patience, and for my name's sake hast labored, and hast not fainted. Nevertheless, I have somewhat against thee, because thou hast left thy first love. Remember therefore from whence thou art fallen, and repent, and do the first works. Or else I will come unto thee quickly, and will remove thy candlestick out of his place, except thou repent. But this thou hast, that thou hatest the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of the paradise of God. And unto the angel of the church in Smyrna write, these things saith the first and the last, which are dead, which was dead, and is alive. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews, and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 years. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. And to the angel of the church of Pergamos write, these things saith he which hath the sharp sword with 2 edges. I know thy works, and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. And thou holdest fast my name, and hast not denied my faith. Even in those days wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr, who was slain among you where Satan dwelleth. And I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. So hast thou also them that hold the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, which thing I hate. Repent, or else I will come unto thee quickly, and will fight against thee with the sword of my mouth. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the hidden manna, and will give him a white stone, and in the stone a new name written, which no man knoweth, saving he that receiveth it. And unto the angel of the church of Thyatira, and unto the angel of the church of Thyatira write, these things saith the Son of God, who hath his eyes like unto a flame of fire, and his feet are like fine brass. I know thy works, and charity, and service, and faith, and thy patience, and thy works, and the last to be more than the first. Thy works and thy works. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication, and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. By the way, guys, this has much contemporary application and value. We like to skip the first few chapters of Revelation. We love to skip them. And we need to not, because these are written to us. We need to stop skipping to the crazy prophecy part and sucking all of that up and forget about these verses. We need to dwell in them. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. And I will kill her children with death, and all the churches shall know that I am he that searcheth the reins and hearts. And I will give unto every one of you according to your works. But unto you I say, and unto the rest in Thyatira, as many as have not this doctrine, and which have not known the depths of Satan as they speak, I will put upon you none other burden. But that which ye have already, hold fast till I come. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessel of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received my Father, and I will give him the morning star. He that hath an ear, let him hear. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. You guys don't hear these preached very often. It's all about some church 2,000 years ago that has no bearing on you, has no real bearing on Bible prophecy. I think that's probably good for tonight. I encourage you guys to read chapter 3. The next chance that you get, read Revelation chapter 3. Slow down and think about it. After you have listened to this live stream, slow down and think about it. For now, let's return to the discussion. This is entitled the Kent Hovind Controversy. It's not entitled Kent Hovind, the falsely accused godly man. It's not entitled Kent Hovind, the wicked evil adulterer. It's not entitled any of those things because there's a controversy and I recognize that and I want to respect both sides. I really do. All I want out of this live stream, let me tell you what this is not intended to be. This live stream is not intended to spread rumors about Dr. Hovind or about Dinosaur Adventureland. It is not. It is not intended to give young Earth creationism a black eye. I am not against young Earth creationism. This live stream is not intended to accuse Dr. Hovind or Dinosaur Adventureland of criminal activity. It is not intended to do that. It is also not intended to keep you from booking Dr. Hovind or supporting or visiting or volunteering at Dinosaur Adventureland. This is what this live stream is intended for. This live stream is intended to raise awareness of the testimony that is given by Kent Hovind's ex-wives and former volunteers of Dinosaur Adventureland. This live stream is intended to encourage believers not to base their beliefs upon a single man or ministry. I know that it's nice to be able to curl up beside the fire, grab a cup of coffee, maybe a strudel or something like this, and just suck up whatever somebody tells you and just be like, the world is so confusing out there. This person seems to know what they're talking about. I'm just going to accept what they're telling me and we'll go with that. I trust them. I would like to encourage you to think for yourself and not to take or base your beliefs upon any single man or ministry. One thing that I would like to do in this live stream, but I may not get to it, and it may be best left for some other time. I would like to also discuss crazy conspiracy theories about the about Dr. Hovind and Dinosaur Adventureland, which we may not get to. We may not. Advise, and I would also like to advise the viewer to use caution before booking or supporting Dr. Hovind and before visiting or volunteering at Dinosaur Adventureland. I would like you to use caution. And I would like you to listen to what the video I'm about to play has to say. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about how I found this video. And I know that as Christians, we've been trained to be so defensive. We've been trained to be very defensive about our leaders and the people that stand up for what we see to be right and things that are biblical and things like this. Things that are right are not usually defended. And when somebody does that, we can get defensive on their behalf, and rightly so, many times. But our we shouldn't be too defensive. We may have our favorite preacher. Oh, he's unpopular. Oh, he preaches hard against sin or something like this. And we may have the utmost respect for them. But when they do something wrong or they say something wrong, we can't be defensive of that. We need to be like, sorry, sorry, doc, sorry, preacher, sorry, you're wrong. I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what you've said. But when you did this or said this or what have you, you were wrong. And we can't be so quick to jump into that defensive mode. Here's some questions that I'd like to answer. How and when did I first hear of Dr. Hovind's ministry? Well, I was a kid. I was a very young kid. And my aunt had some videos that I think she might have picked up at her church or something like this and thought that me and my brother would be interested. So we ended up watching Kent Hovind's creation science seminar for the first time all the way through. And we enjoyed it. And it wasn't long before, we ended up watching it again, and we would watch it every once in a while just, because. And it was the older one, the older series before. I think he revised it a few times. And I believe at that point it was on VHS, and we enjoyed it a lot. I practically had it memorized. I still practically have his seminar series memorized. He's actually the only, no, I'm not going to say the only reason, but he served as my introduction to the Bible version controversy. He was King James only at the time. And yeah, I just got to ignore these comments in the chat right now because I've got a list and I'm not going to skip all of them just because somebody's impatient. So I believe it was in his question and answer part 7 of the creation science seminar, and he talked about Bible versions for the first time. I'd never really heard of it. I had there was a brief quotation, a brief point in, I believe it was the Bible class material from the Pensacola Christian Academy that I had as a child homeschooling. And it just mentioned something vague about other translations missing verses or something like this. And I was like, wait, what? It's details. And I was just like, it provided no verses at all. And it was like, well, that's very unhelpful. But Dr. Hovind actually provided the verses. And I was like, oh, so I wrote all of them down. And my mom actually, at this point, ordered me for the first two King James only books that I ever received. Gail Riplinger's New Age Bible versions and The Language of the King James Bible. I still have both of those copies. They're on my shelf right back here. Dr. Hovind, his brief description of the history of the Bible and the corruption of the text and stuff like this was my introduction to the Bible version controversy. And I recognize how a lot of it is kind of rounded off and abbreviated and not exactly how it is, but pretty much, and you can kind of overlook some of the things, but he was my introduction. He's the main reason this channel even exists. As far as I'm aware, he is still King James only. As far as I am aware. I loved his ministry, his material. Me and my wife, the day before our first child was born, I think it was the day, or like a couple of days before, we ended up driving to a place called Port Crane, and Dr. Hovind was there talking at a summer camp, and it was amazing to see him in person. My wife had grown up as a fan of Dr. Hovind's as well, and she was familiar with his work, and she was Canadian. The week before, it was around her due date. So, yeah, it was nice. It was nice to be able to see him in person and everything. And I think I might have this as a recording, possibly. I don't remember, but it's like a recording in my head. He had question and answer time and stuff, and I was like, would you mind commenting on the modern versions? And he's like, sure. And the Bible version controversy and stuff. And he was like, sure. And brought up his slide of one verse. I believe he leads off with 1 John 5:7 and then goes to Acts 8:37. And I was a bit of a smart aleck, I admit it. But this was where I was like, oh, that was weird. But it's like your childhood hero, and that was before this YouTube thing was even a foggy thought in my brain, which most of my thoughts in my brain are foggy at this point. It showed the letter D or something. I believe it was the letter D for a footnote about the verse. So like it had the letter D in between the two verses, Acts 8:36 and Acts 8:38. Acts 8:37 was represented by a D. And he's like, can you read verse 37? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, I can. And I went, D. And he didn't pick up on my sarcasm. So, or maybe he didn't think that that I was King James only or whatever. And he was like, said to his assistant, he's like, do you see something? Is there something there that I'm not seeing? Is there a verse there? And the person's like, no, Ken, there's no verse there. And so, he went on about his thing, talking about it and stuff. And afterwards, I was like, I understand what you're talking about with the modern translations and things. I asked you to talk about it so more people could be aware of it. I've actually kind of became a pain in my childhood church about the whole King James thing. And he was like, well, that's good. Sometimes there needs to be more pains out there to get people motivated and people thinking and stuff. And I was like, well, thank you. But it was kind of disappointing when I was there because he seemed to be on repeat. it was, and I understand because people are constantly trying to talk to him about stuff. People are always trying to hook him into controversy, debating something, just get nasty or whatever. By the way, if you guys are getting some value out of this video so far, hit the like button, please. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. And share the video. That makes it so that there'll be somebody else out there that watches this besides you. So that'd be awesome. But it was kind of, it seemed fake. Like it was just the same, rubber band, worms feet, and these different jokes and stuff like this that just kept playing over and over and over again. Even when there was a young, very intelligent young man there that was interested in asking him questions, he was coming at him with the stuff that just same. Every interaction was the same thing. And I understand. But it was nonetheless disappointing and kind of odd. So, for what that's worth. How and when did you first find out about Dr. Hovind's ex-wife's testimony? It was, I believe it was June 25th of last year, 2022. So yeah, it stood out a little bit, needless to say. And just saw a video pop up by a guy that I follow that Ken Hovind has debated on different things, but he has a lot of good points and he does a lot of he has a lot of good material himself. So I subscribed and I'm interested in that kind of stuff. So, and he had a video that said something about warning about Dinosaur Adventureland and stuff like that. The link to that video is in the description if you guys want to check that out. It's a little longer. We'll not watch all of it tonight, but I do want you guys to listen to the first little bit. So might take the first hour for this, and then we might take the first hour of the video, so long as it plays, which I'm hoping that it will. But I was like, well, Dr. Hovind is innocent of the nonsense that they're charging him of. His ex-wives obviously have some vendetta against him. Who knows? But me, I'm weird. I like to listen to things and be like, okay, if there's some validity to this, I'm going to listen to it and I'll pick up on it and I'll be better for it. If there's no validity to it, it's going to be obvious. And I'll just be like, well, and I'll be able to, decide for myself and not, not just go along with what I thought or whatever. So, I like things like that. So, challenging yourself, like the one person said, if your butt cheeks don't tighten up about something that about some idea that you don't like at least once a day, you're not learning anything. So it's like, yes, that's pretty much true. If your butt cheeks don't get tightened about something once a day, you're not really learning. You're just in your little vein, and that's where you're going to stay. So I started listening to it, listened to the first part of it, listened to the end of the first part of Mary Toko's story. And I remember I was coming home on a different route from what I usually do from work. Pulled over in somebody's dirt driveway. I can't remember if my wife called me for something or if I called her. And I said to her, dear, I don't think that Kent Hovind, I didn't say, like on the thumbnail says, misworded that. The thumbnail says, is Kent Hovind the godly man that we think he is? What it should have said is Kent Hovind the man that we think he is. And I pulled over, talked to my wife on the phone, and I was like, dear, I am very concerned and shaken right now. I was very shaken. Shook me to my core. I felt like I'd been betrayed. And I said to her, I don't think that Dr. Hovind is the man that we think he is. I want you guys to listen to this testimony. There's things that I'd want you guys to bear in mind as well. We'll have to talk about this at some other point. My mind just runs all kind of places. So let's try to get this playing for you guys. Let's see, we're going to make this a layout like that. We're going to add this to stage. Sweet. Alrighty, here we go. Is that coming good for you guys? If there's any problem with the audio, please let me know and we'll try to fix it.
All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Michael Jones. I run Inspiring Philosophy, and I have two very special guests here with me today, Mary Toko and Cindy Lincoln, formerly married to Kent Hovind. Now, there has been a lot of things going around as to why we are doing this, as to why I'm having them on my channel. I want to make sure we are clear up front as to what is going on and why we are doing this. For one, this is not about gossip. This is not about slander. This is not about us bashing someone for no reason. This is not an episode of Jerry Springer. There are important things that these women need to tell us as the church, and we need to listen. That is what this is about. So I want to be clear up front. They're going to share their testimonies, their experiences living with Kent Hovind, things they experienced down there that were bad, that were harmful. And I hope we can all listen to them. And I hope we can all try to understand where they're coming from and why they're getting this message out. So let me bring them in here. Here we go. All right. And welcome, Mary. I think Cindy had to run and check something really quickly here.
Hi, guys. Sorry.
So welcome, both of you. How are you guys doing today? Thanks for coming on my channel to talk about this.
Awesome. Great.
Awesome. Go ahead, Mary, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Mary Toko, known as an independent vaccine researcher, public speaker, ex-radio host, and I was married to Kent for 9 months. I got married to him in September of 2016 and left him by July of 2017. And I'm here tonight for one reason only. I have been quiet for many years since I left him. I have heard from many people over those years of things he was saying about me that I believe are not true. And I guess I'm here because I see Cindy now, who I happen to know pretty well, in the same position as I am, only I am afraid she took a much worse, her time there was much worse than mine. I left before it got crazy. Unfortunately, she stuck around and she's been harmed and hurt deeply by what's going on there. I know Cindy's character and integrity, and I came on to support her because I know she's not a liar. I know she's been hurt. And that's why I'm here today, is to basically just talk about what's going on that I can guarantee I know firsthand of what's going on there and why people need to be aware of this situation.
Thank you. Cindy, go ahead and introduce yourself. You were married to Kent after Mary. So just introduce yourself, and then I want to talk to you guys about why this is important.
Okay. Like Mary, I came to Dinosaur Adventureland to serve, to give. We gave a lot of our money. We loved Kent Hovind and his ministry. We wanted to see we wanted to be part of something that impacted the world for Christ. And we were slandered and stolen from. I don't know if Mary would phrase hers that way. Anyway, what's going on there is not a ministry. It's more like a mafia. And it does take a while to figure that out. I was there for 5 years altogether, 3 of them as Kent's third wife. And I just kind of want to say, I don't normally advocate that many marriages. I never wanted more than one. But as a lot of people realize, sometimes you realize that the person you're involved with is morally, you can't stay with them without doing what they're doing or being abused or all of the above. And so I did at first attempt to remain single or seek to be reconciled to my husband's, but I came to have my position changed on remarriage, because if there's not going to be any reconciliation, then you're looking at 40 years of singleness. And I just didn't. Anyway, I don't want to be promoting that kind of revolving door marriage, but
I understand. I understand where you're coming from. These are hard things to talk about, and I just want to let everyone know. So this happened because Steve McRae of Non Sequitur introduced me to you guys and said, "Hey, this needs to get out. Christians need to hear this more." And so, for those wondering, this is very hard for a lot of people who've gone through abuse to share testimonies, to come forward with this kind of stuff. So I just want to let you both know you're very brave for doing this, and for going against the slanderers and the trolls and the attackers. Why is this important? From my perspective, I want to hear this from both of you, but this is important for me is because when Ravi Zacharias was abusing women, the women that came forward were attacked and ridiculed, and horrible things happened to them. And we as a church failed them. We can't let that happen again. So if people who claim to be Christian are abusing women again, or emotionally, verbally, physically, anything, it needs to be called out. And so that's why I want to hear your testimonies. Why do you think it's important to talk about what happened at Dinosaur Adventureland, the bad that was there? Why is it important for you? Why is it important to do this in your report? Let me hear from Cindy first, and then Mary as well.
You brought up an interesting point. Okay, Steve McRae at the Non Sequitur show is how we discovered each other. And he is one of the people that had me on to help expose my story. And I was heavily, heavily slandered by Kent Hovind and actually well-meaning Christians for going on atheist channels. And the fact of the matter was, they came to me because they saw what was going on. The Christians shunned me. That is a shame on the church. But the atheists showed me more love and compassion than the church. So I guess that's part of it. The church needs to increase its awareness for victims and not believe them. I was not believed, except for by the atheists primarily. And there were a couple of, like, Sal Cordova just showed his chat. You just popped up his chat, Evidence and Reasons channel. By the way, he's a great source for alternative creation science rather than Kent Hovind. But he was one of the few Christians that stood up for me. He lost subscribers. He got hate mail. The defense for Kent Hovind is very strange. Mary actually refers to it as being under a spell. It's like his followers are under a spell, and I am some kind of a heretic for speaking the truth about the evil that goes on under his reign
So
of
just
terror.
to clarify, this is not about just spreading gossip. There are bad things that happen there. There are people that could still move down there, give money, and it's not going to go to good use, according to both of you. Is that true?
Yes, sir. Both Mary and I testify that we saw people who came to Dinosaur Adventureland to serve God, and they left disillusioned, probably financially impacted, very sorry that they put the money into Dinosaur Adventureland that they did, mistreated. Kent has a habit of defending criminals and throwing godly people who came to serve under the bus.
So
It's very strange, and that's why I call it mafia.
Interesting. Mary, talk about why you think this is important.
Well, I think because he is such a likable person, he's funny, he's fun, he's talented, he's charismatic.
I will say that is very true. He is very charismatic.
I watched a video of his earlier, and it was like he was cracking jokes. He is so likable. But like Jekyll and Hyde, there's another side to him that people don't get to see. And I didn't know about that other side until I got on the campus and started spending time and living with him. And the hardest thing for me is I want an honest husband. I came from a 24-year marriage where there was a lot of dishonesty. I had a biblical divorce. I had been single for a long time, and I was looking for a man of God. I passed up a lot of men that wanted to date me or even wanted to marry me because they didn't have a relationship with the Lord that I wanted. And when he came along, I thought, wow, this is great, because our lives were so parallel in so many ways. I thought this is exactly the type of ministry I want to get involved with. It worked well with my ministry. So anyway, I went into this thinking long-term marriage, thinking forever. And I also went into it with the understanding that he and his board were going to run it according to the law. They have a 501c3. He always said he wasn't going to get one years before, but now he had a 501c3. And before I got involved, I wanted to make sure that they were going to do everything by the book, because I believed he was innocent based on all the things he says. He's very convincing. And there are a lot of videos out there saying he was innocent. And I believed he was innocent. So I married him thinking he was innocent. But when I got on the property and I saw the way things.
All right, so if we're experiencing any echo, please let me know. And yeah, one of those people that talked about, that was on YouTube, that defended him in the middle of my my younger years and stuff. I don't think I've done it on this channel. This channel is much newer than I am to YouTube. So yes, please let me know if there's any echo going on. And like I've said before, like, share, subscribe. That would be awesome. I will mute my microphone just to make sure that we're all good. And again, if you guys want to help us out with anything, there are links in the description.
Were being done. I knew that he was doing the same thing he did before that got him in jail. And that to me was unacceptable. And it's not necessary. When you have a 501c3, you have a lot of write-offs. You have a lot of ways that you can save money and do things right. He and Ernie Land were not playing by the books. And I told him about the 6 month in, what are you doing? You guys are not doing things right. And by the 8th and 9th month, I had accumulated a whole list of things that they weren't doing right. And I knew they weren't doing them right. And I went to.
All right, so she is just starting her testimony right now. Yeah. As I'm listening to this back last summer, I was just listening to it. I wasn't constantly, Where's your proof? Huh? Where's your proof? Huh? Huh? You know, that would show me as being a troll. I just was driving, just listening, waiting for what they were going to say. Where's, you know, where's your evidence? And allowed them to keep speaking. Because, of course, I'm driving. I'm not going to take time to pause it and stuff. I just sat there and listened. And I think it's important for us, especially as Christians, who are so easily deceived by many times, not saying directly that Ken Hovind is or that I think he is, but we are very easily deceived by wolves in sheep's clothing. We are. We really are. We're very, very trusting of our leadership many times. We don't, and we're very protective of them too. It can be sad and people can be very hurt. I would like to mention Joe Combs, who put over 400 marks on his adopted daughter and went to prison for 106 years. He was a professor at Hyde College. If you guys have seen the more recent video of my favorite of Dr. Hovind's Creation Seminar Series, Part 3, with Dinosaurs Still Alive, Dinosaurs in the Bible, I've promoted it for years on our website, Card Carrying Christians. And that was at Hyde College, just as a thought. Joe Combs abused his adopted daughter along with his wife. They both abused their adopted daughter. They said that they were teaching her to be a servant. He used the excuse, as Bill Grady has mentioned, that, oh, King David wasn't perfect either. He had concubines. They abused her in every way imaginable. They beat her with bats, umbrellas, chains, twisted her skin with pliers, all sorts of horrible, horrific things. And this is supposed to be a Christian professor at a fundamentalist Bible college, put away for 106 years. I don't know whatever happened to Dr. Joe Combs, but one thing that Bill Grady mentioned is that he was always one of the guys that criticized the King James Bible at Hyde College. He would say that Psalms 14:1 was mistranslated, where it says, "The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God." There is in italics because the word no there in Hebrew means the non-existence of something. So they put there is no in italics because it was implied by the Hebrew word for no in that case. But he said that it should be, as did one of my youth group leaders when I was younger. He used to say the same thing, that the fool hath said in his heart, no, to God. So not that God doesn't exist, but the fool hath said in his heart, no, God, I'm not doing blah, blah, blah. So just letting you know. Oh, wow. Dr. Joe has a boyfriend in prison now named Bubba. Interesting. Well, I don't know how you know that, but that is interesting. And I really don't know what went on with the whole Hiles thing. But it bothers me a lot because I don't know. And I've heard a lot of people that have come out of there that have reported horrible things. I don't know how many of them were true. They've turned out a lot of good stuff, but they've turned out a lot of bad stuff. One of the preacher boys that they turned out, yeah, ended up being a pedophile, and he was at somebody's, new to somebody's church or whatever, and, oh, your soul winning isn't good enough, and, you need to be more aggressive, and you need to trying to get the church to go, the Hiles soul winning route and everything. And they weren't really having it. They're like, no, we're doing what we do, and we think we're doing it biblically, and why do you think you can just come here and change everything? And turned out that he was a pedophile. So interestingly enough, I forget whose church that was. I remember seeing that on YouTube years ago. You probably have seen the same videos, a lot of you. But I'll throw two more things, Hyles related. Just as a note, not saying it means anything. They when Jack Hyles went King James only, they loved the King James Bible. They went crazy when the King James banner came out on when they had their thing, and they apparently loved it and stuff. And that was all majestic and great. I wasn't there. I've only heard about it. Some big conference thing. They gave Gail Ripplinger her honorary doctorate, or at least the only honorary doctorate that I'm aware of that she has. And yeah. And one other thing. I saw a comment tonight on a past video that John Todd, so for those of you who know who that is, I would love to have more information about what he talked about. He said that Jack Hyles was the most, according to the person that left this comment, they haven't commented back to tell me where they got the information or anything yet. But apparently John Todd said that Jack Hyles was one of the most powerful and feared men in the world of the Illuminati and the occult. So that is very interesting. And I don't know that. I don't know that it is true. I know that John Todd brought forward a lot of controversial information. And I also know that the occult does not only fear people that are more demon-possessed than they are, they also fear godly men, angels, the power of the name of Jesus Christ, things like this. So, I don't know the context of that statement. I would love to hear where John Todd ever said that, but I don't know if that's going to be forthcoming. So, I should actually try to share some of John Todd's stuff here on the channel sometime. Anyways, let's keep going with this video. She's just talking right now and just gotten up to the point where Mary Toko has a list of different things that she wants to bring up to the Dinosaur Adventureland board about different things that need to be run legally.
Them. And I asked them, we had a meeting. My daughter was there. Her husband was there. Lady Di was there. Ernie Land was there. Kent was there, even though he's not a board member. He's a volunteer. Okay. He was there. And I asked questions. Why are you paying people under the table and not collecting taxes? Why are you not withholding taxes for people who've been here for over a year and you're giving them money every week? What's going on? I know this is why he went to jail. And Ernie Land said, quote, okay, go on.
No, finish that up. And then I want you to keep talking about this because we're segueing into where I want to go next. So talk about that. And then, so keep going with the problems and then talk about why you left, because that's perfect segue.
So Ernie Land said, oh, these are gray areas we could defend in court. And I was like, why would you want to go to court? We don't want to go to court. You've already been through that. Where's the money going to come for court? In fact, I'd like to know who's paid for all your court costs years before. Was it all volunteer money? How much were you spending on court? You're telling me that we could go to court and defend this gray area? That was an unacceptable answer. The place had no insurance on it. People were coming, lay people from all over the world, people from all over the country were coming and were using power tools and saws and ladders and scaffolding and I'm like, what if somebody cuts a finger off? What if somebody drowns in the lake? You don't have insurance on this place. And I was told, Mary, just be quiet and be the wife. This doesn't concern you. And I'm like, you guys, this isn't right. And the final thing that made me leave was when we had a life-threatening email sent to us. The very day that I was questioning the board about all of this and was not getting the right answers, I found out that somebody was emailing, a volunteer was going to come. This volunteer said, quote, you don't know if I'm male or female, but I might be a plumber, a builder, a painter, an electrician, but I'm going to come, I'm going to win your trust, and you're going to love me. And when you least expect it, I'm going to either douse you with gasoline and set you both on fire, or I'm going to shoot you in the head, point blank with a gun, or I'm going to poison your food and watch you suffer. And then it was like, I'm coming, just be warned. And the day that I found out about this, I said to him, Kent, what are we doing about this? And he said, oh, I get these life threats all the time. And I said, really? Are you serious? I never heard about that, because I believed he was lying to me. Then, Cindy, you knew about this life threat, didn't you? You heard about it. You were there. And so I, of course, was concerned, because now I'm thinking, okay, I live out in the middle of nowhere. I'm nowhere near a town. We have no security. Anyone can walk on anywhere all over this property. Our house has no security. We don't even have air conditioning in 95, 100-degree weather. We don't have a furnace for the winter. We are sitting ducks. He's not allowed to have a gun because he's a felon and he's still on probation. I'm like, what are we going to do about this, Kent? He said, there's nothing we can do. Now, we did call the sheriff and we made a sheriff complaint. And the sheriff basically said, all I can do is, hopefully if something happens, we can get to you. But what really made me mad, and this is why I left, he lied to me and Cindy and several others within 3 hours. And he said, oh, good news, everybody. They caught the guy who sent the email. And the FBI are going to arrest him on Monday morning. They know the computer, it's in a business, and they're going to get him. And everybody who knew about this, which was Freddie and Manon, Lady Di, my daughter, her husband, were all like, praise the Lord. God saved us. I knew he was lying because I was with him all day. I did not hear a call come in like that. So after we had our Bible study, we're walking back to the house at night. And I said, Kent, who told you about this? They caught the guy. And he said, oh, I don't remember. I get so many phone calls. And I said, in 3 hours.
Remember that, folks.
You don't remember? I looked at him and I said, I cannot believe that you just lied right to my face and right to all of these people. This is like the third major lie I caught you in 3 months, Kent. What more are you going to lie at me about? I can't trust you. You're not protecting me. And that was it. I left the next morning with my grandchildren. I did not feel safe. Now I left because he lied, not because I was in fear. And he tells everybody that Mary was in fear and she was scared. Well, I was concerned. Who wouldn't be?
Right.
But
I have to tag team off that, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Go
I
ahead,
was there
Cindy.
for 5 years. I never heard of any death threats except for that one, which you just said was the same day you brought complaints.
Yes.
Okay. Guess what? The same day I came out, I got death threats too. And it was from Ernie. He said to me, oh, now we're receiving death threats because Cindy has decided to come against the Lord's anointed.
Now, hold on. Stop right there. You said
Cult.
Lord's anointed. I want you to go more into that because that sounds
cult.
Exactly. You said it. I mean, so what does that mean? Are they calling Kent the Lord's anointed? Are they setting him up on some sort of pedestal? Elaborate more on that.
Yes. So just the tie-in about before I answer that question, the tie-in about the death threat. Okay, Mary, you had already started complaining about Steve and the $14,000 website, Steve and the drugs, Steve and whatever else. Okay, so in my experience, what happened with me when I came against Steve is when I was drawn or run off. That death threat was tailored for you by Kent's cronies. to
So
run
let's
that is-
explain,
I
Steve.
Just
know
to be
you
clear,
may
that
not-
is just to be clear, you're speculating about this. You don't know for sure.
That's correct. I'm speculating
Okay.
because that's what happened to me. They use threats and intimidation. Okay. So the Lord's anointed. I want to answer that because that is critical.
Okay.
So, and it ties in with what I just said about going against Steve. In March of 2020, there was a drug issue at Dinosaur Adventureland. Steve Lynn, Kent's tech guy, SFT, if you're watching, you know him, was accused of giving drugs or marijuana or something to new converts. Okay. We all know Kent leads people to the Lord. They come to Dinosaur Adventureland green under the ears, fresh off drugs. They want to be clean. They want to serve the Lord. They want to be discipled. They want to turn over a new leaf. Okay. So they get to Dinosaur Adventureland. My job is to help disciple them. I'm the mom, right? So these two new converts, Kenny and Timmy, were high on campus. They said that they had just gotten back from Steve's house and he had given them it. And so I came to Kent. I said, honey, Kenny and Timmy, I can't remember the details. Okay. So the whole Lord's anointed thing. Kent told me, okay, I'll talk to Steve. So he goes and talks to Steve and comes back and says, Cindy, you're lying. Kenny and Timmy are lying. You guys have a vendetta against Steve. And you're meddling in something that's none of your concern. And I said, what? No, Kenny and Timmy have nothing to gain in lying. They're going to get kicked off campus for being high. They were doing the right thing at their own personal expense. And everybody here knows I'm not a liar. And everybody here knows that Steve Lynn is a liar and a drug pusher.
Yes.
Why do you still have him here anyway? But anyway, so Kent said, okay, let's call a meeting. So everybody who lived long-term, Dinosaur Adventureland, 7 people, all went to a meeting. They all testified, no, Cindy is not lying. We all know Steve lies regularly. Steve's a drug pusher. And Steve's the one who's lying. Okay, 7 witnesses tell that to Kent Hovind. Instead of vindicating his wife and saying, honey, I'm sorry, I will discipline Steve. This is
Who is
unacceptable.
Steve? Can you just let everyone know who Steve is?
I'll
That's the
start with
IT
that.
guy. He's the IT guy that you make your
Okay.
debate arrangement with. Kent's tech guy.
And I have to
please
say,
let me finish, okay? I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's Cindy, then we'll go back to Mary. Yeah.
Okay.
So instead of Kent disciplining Steve, vindicating his wife, he calls Ernie Land. Okay, Ernie Land is his 25-year buddy. He handles the money. He's actually owner of everything. He owns CSE. Okay, Ernie Land gets on the phone and says, Kent Hovind is the patriarch of this ministry. He's Moses. I, Ernie Land, am his mouthpiece, Aaron. Cindy is Cora. She's leading the rebellion against the Lord's anointed. And you all know what happened to Cora. The earth opened up and swallowed him down. And anybody who talks about drugs, Steve, Cindy, this whole issue ever again will be kicked off campus, including you, Cindy. And then Kent closed the meeting in prayer. Okay. Now that hypocrisy basically was like a knife. I stood up crying very, very loudly and ran away and threw myself on my bed crying. And the next day I get an email from Ernie Land saying that I was crying like a 3-year-old. And that's when the whole, let's get rid of Cindy. She's bipolar. She's mentally unstable. She just goes off for no reason. I was basically persecuted and called bipolar. And to this very day, Kent still says, I have 200 recordings of Cindy in her mental episodes. But most people would agree that they would have been upset in a situation like that.
Agreed.
The Lord's
So Mary, you had something you wanted to add to that? Go ahead.
When I got to DAL, they had only been there a couple months, and Steve and a man named Roger were on the campus. They're both, much younger than me. And both of them came to me and told me how they got to DAL. Both of them said they were drug dealers, drug addicts, in Alcoholics for many years, that Steve had been running from his child support, that they were in trouble their whole life, and that they were getting a new start at DAL, and that they loved Kent's ministry, and that's why they were there. Now, of course, I'm rejoicing. They gave their life to the Lord. These are guys starting out fresh. Nobody held it against them, okay? If anything, we were prayerful. Yes, we're glad you're here, doing something right with your life. But as I got to know him and Roger, I saw that these guys were not reformed. In fact, at one point, we were going to a local church and they had a rehab program for drug addicted people. And I suggested to Ken, I think when people come to this campus with a drug issue, who've been drug addicts, whatever, I think they need to go to this accountability program. I think they need help. I don't think they can just come here, dry up, and serve. But Kent had them in places of position and authority from the minute they got there, which is a huge judgment problem for me. I do not see giving a man like Steve, who was an alcoholic, I could smell alcohol on him during the day, which I told Kent, and he ignored. He gave him a position of authority. He put him in charge of handling money. He put him up in a house off of the campus because of complaints of him getting high on campus. He protected him.
Aiding and abetting.
It's like, why are you doing this, Kent? This guy is not good for the ministry. He hasn't proven himself. But you know what? There was nothing I could say to get Kent to hear what I had to say. And if I said anything, he'd say, Mary, just be my wife. You're not on the board. You need to mind your own business. And I'm like going, oh my gosh. Now, I will also say that Cindy and I have been called gold diggers many times. He just did it a couple days ago. He put the definition of a gold digger while on video and said, I'm a gold digger. And the reason he said that.
Well, Mary, we brought the gold, honey. You stole the gold.
Yeah, it's true. When he says,
it's the same as the bipolar thing. It's discredit women.
It's character assassination, because when I was looking at the decision to marry him, I had my own townhome, which was newly furnished. Everything was mine. I had no debt. I worked very hard for years to get to that place. When I made a decision to sell everything and move, I consulted with a tax attorney. And he said, because Kent has a $2 or $3 million tax lien on him from the government, because his ministry really doesn't have much right now, and you have no security there, nothing, we can't predict what it's going to do. We don't encourage you we want you to keep your assets separate. Keep your assets separate. And because I had developed my name internationally as an expert on vaccines and healthcare, I did not want to change my name. And so I didn't change my name. And he and Ernie agreed before we got married that with my children now, my kids were like, Mom, what are you doing? You're going to marry an ex-con who has nothing, who's broke, and who's going to take you out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of like a desert with sand dunes, and you're going to live there? What happens if he dies? What happens if he gets killed? What happens? Kent and Ernie agreed with my children. They promised me that to give me some kind of financial security in the untimely death of Kent, that they would get me a life insurance policy to help me out of my old age. Now that's fair. Mm-hmm. And they promised me. Nobody said I was a gold digger. They said, yeah, we'll do that for you, Mary. We'll do that for your kids so they know that mom's being taken care of in these uncertain situations like this. So we get there.
The whole house would be in CSC name. So you wouldn't automatically have a place to live as the Hovind.
Right. Nothing was set up for me no matter what. So when we get there, he told me we'd do it before we got married. We didn't have time. We got there, and about the second month, I said, okay, you guys, we don't have my kids were bugging me. Mom, do you have that life insurance policy yet? You really should work on that, Mom. That's important. Don't let it go. It's important. We need to know that our mom's going to be okay. And I asked them about it. They said, oh, sure, Mary, let's work on it. And I said, I have a guy in Michigan who has given our family services. He's a wonderful Christian man. They said, go ahead. So his name is Ted. So I contacted Ted. Ted and I worked on the phone, and he worked on paperwork. It took several weeks. And then Ted says, okay, we now need to do a physical exam for Kent in order to get this life insurance policy. Kent agreed. Ted had a nurse come out to the house. She did the evaluation on Kent. Again, another indication that he's agreeing about all of this, right?
Bait and switch.
It comes time to sign on the dotted line. The payment would have been somewhere around $1,000 a month. And the first thing that comes out of his mouth is, oh, we can't do this. We can't afford it. And I looked at him and I said, what do you mean? You've taken in $750,000 since I've been here. You can't pay $1,000?
Whoa.
Yeah.
My ministry does not bring anywhere near that. Wow. So
he had taken in $750,000 in donations, and someone gave him the land that was worth $250,000 on top of that. So I'm going to him, wait a minute. You promised me, Kent. My kids are counting on this. I gave up my earning potential. I left my career. I'm out in the middle of nowhere working like a workhorse, which I was every day. Cindy can attest to that. And you can't give me an insurance policy in case you drop dead? He lied. He baited me, and then he lied. I was devastated, but I'm like, of course, his words, Mary, trust God. Oh, you got to trust God. You have to have more faith. You just need to trust God.
Yeah. So let's go from there a little bit. I want to go back to Cindy here, but let's talk about. Remember, guys, this is supposed to be a park for kids to go to, and we're hearing that there are drugs on the park based on testimonies that we have been given here. There are people here that are not up to code, up to keeping things the way they should be. There is no proper security. So let's talk about that. Cindy, I want to go back to you now, and I want you to talk about problems that are there, things that you talk about. Maybe the money's not going in the right place. Talk about what is the real problem here with people donating to Dinosaur Adventureland. Where's the money going? That sort of problems that are happening there. Just elaborate a little bit on that, and because this is the heart of what we're trying to get at here, is that this is not just about spreading rumors. This is about warning people about this so-called ministry and how they're improperly using funds. So go ahead and elaborate more on that for us, Cindy.
Okay, so I just want to make a quick comment. The things that stood out to me so far, and we're about, I'd say about a third of the way into the video. And the things that have stood out to me especially are that there weren't apparently life threats until the day that his wife was criticizing him in both cases. Apparently, these life threats never actually came to anything. That tells me that somebody that knew he was being criticized sent both of those. And meant it to be a distraction and something that, yeah, wow, just so much. And then I think she's mentioned this. I didn't quite nail it, but when she brought up the thing about the drugs with Steve or whoever it was, and she was told that she was messing with something that wasn't any of her business, or something that she didn't know what she was messing with. If those were the words that were used, that tells me that there's something going on that makes it so that if you're involved in the illegal drug industry, and you show up there and you get saved, which we know how much that's thrown around, and you get saved or whatever, that all of a sudden, zoop, You are now part of the ministry. Wow, you've been gloriously saved, brother. All right, time to put you in command of everybody else. That tells me that there's people that are involved in really bad, dark stuff that are just being given places of authority. Not necessarily just because it's a stupid, sloppy thing to do, but also because there might be something going on behind the scenes that just makes my conspiracy juices run wild. So let me resume. Let me resume on this video. Guys, really, this came as a shock to me. I hope that you guys are at least enjoying listening to this, that maybe you guys are getting something you can take away from this. Not meaning to start a witch hunt. Not looking forward to completely destroying my YouTube channel. But guys, I think that this needs to be heard. And it needs to be heard more often. Guys, if you have stories, gals, if you ladies have stories that are like this, don't wait to get a hold of somebody that can help you and get out of the situation that you're in. Don't wait until it's too late.
You have no idea how big that answer is.
Well, just give us some highlights. We don't have to cover everything.
I think Kent's character is the biggest part of it. You don't want to give your money to a man with no character. Both Mary and I were in by the character that we thought that he was.
Let me say again. Let me say something too. Guys, we have been trained to react to this. No, he has a good godly character. He's saved. He's gotten a lot of people saved through his ministry. He's debated a lot of evolutionary this and that. And wow, he's just, bops them over the head with the Bible and they shrivel in terror and stuff. Wow, this is amazing. First off, please don't be defensive of Christian superstars that are doing things that are wrong. Ravi Zacharias, Jack Hiles, I don't care who it is. Don't be defensive of Christian celebrities that are doing things that are wrong. And don't try to justify them by saying, oh, Moses killed a guy, David killed a guy, he committed adultery, this and that and the other thing. Because in the Bible, God still punished them. I don't believe that Moses's was outright murder. I know Prince of Egypt portrays it as an accident, but I don't think that that was the case. But he certainly suffered for it. David, when he killed Bathsheba's husband, he suffered for it greatly with the life of his child. So let's not go saying, oh, well, good godly men always have defects and stuff like this. Guys, this goes beyond defects. This stuff is downright horrifying if you think about the implications behind it. I don't know. Who knows? Dr. Hovind may even see this video. I don't know. If he does, hi, Dr. Hovind. Love to hear what he has to say about this stuff. And we don't need the same dog and pony show as usual. We need you to sit down and talk with these ladies face to face in front of the world. And yeah, I know you already have. Anyways. And just so we are remembering our Christian celebrities Remember that there's things that people can do in the dark. People can do things, promise the devil things, sell things to the devil, to demons, to warlocks, whatever. They can sell their souls and obtain fame, and obtain fortune, obtain power, charisma, listening ears. There's just so much that comes to my mind when I think about this subject. Like I've said before, this isn't the last time, but we should keep listening. I want the ladies to speak for themselves.
We thought he was sold out for evangelism. We thought, and he does, in fact, put his money into Dinosaur Adventureland. The problem is that Dinosaur Adventureland is very shaddily built, and there are safety issues that he could care less about. And a couple of us, many of us, in fact, there's actually 28 people that have given me an interview on my YouTube channel against Kent Hovind. And a lot of them will say they wondered, why doesn't he care that it's not built properly, that this is going to rot in 5 years, or the children are going to fall over here. And someone said it's like a stage prop. Dinosaur Adventureland is like a stage prop. And if you put 2 and 2 together, okay, Jimmy Baker, Jerry Falwell, Hyles Anderson, they all use building as a fundraiser. When you stop building, the funds dry up. Christians want to think that they're part of a barn raising. They're part of a something for God. And so they will contribute. But they just don't understand. So that's, and then the character part. Kent has, when Mary and I were together there, we used to say, why does Kent have a liar as his right-hand man? And for the longest time, I thought, well, Steve is pulling the wool over Kent's eyes. Steve is pulling the wool over Ernie's eyes. And then I came to realize, no, it took a very long time because, like Mary said, he's very convincing. And he's very good at saying, well, let's not bother with this trivial stuff. Let's deal with soul winning. But anyway, I came to realize, no, Steve is not pulling the wool over anyone. Can't do this. There is something bad going on between Steve, Ernie Land, the owner of everything, and Kent Hovind and some of his other flying monkeys. I don't know if it's a money grab, if it's a pedophile ring, if it's a drug ring. I really don't. I have speculations, and there are at least 4 pedophiles in Kent's inner circle.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So just to clarify, these are people that they're not. Are they active or are they convicted? What is their status?
Chris Jones is on the registered sex offenders list. Brady Byram has a very scathing letter from his son. Brady Byram was just appointed to the board of Creation Science Evangelism in February of this year, after his son came out over a year ago. Kent doesn't care. He's going to appoint Brady anyway. Brady Byram is the man who did KentHovindinnocent.com, which is part of what compelled me to believe that Kent was innocent. Hyles Anderson College is essentially a cesspool that has produced over 8 or 9, I forget, between 9 and 12 pedophiles that have been convicted. So Hyles Anderson College is sending out pastors all over the country. I'm just getting ready to put out a video on this, 9 of whom have been convicted for pedophilia.
Okay, so let's just thank you for clarifying on that. So that was very good. So Cindy, I want you to talk a little bit about the abuse you went through, because this is something where Kent went to court, lost, he abused you. And then after this, I want to go back to Mary and I want to ask her a question. So talk about the abuse you experienced and how traumatizing it was and what you did after that.
Well, the abuse started in March of 2020 with that drug incident where I was called Cora and where I was shunned. So I was shunned for months and falsely accused of many different things in order to try and get me angry and get good recordings of Cindy yelling and swearing. And I have apologized many times for yelling and swearing. I am sorry for that. It was such a trauma, realizing my whole entire world was crumbling around me. And then in October, when the body slam happened, in early October of 2020, Kent and Ernie started saying, we don't have a contract. When we had a contract for $130,000 that I had put into the ministry in exchange for 20 years of payments. And I said, what do you mean we don't have a contract? And I showed them the contract. And they said, oh, that contract. Well, we didn't have authority to sign that contract. That contract required a 51% board approval. And I'm like, that's a year and a half after you took my money. Now you're telling me that you didn't have authority to sign the contract that you gave me to intentionally make me think I had a legally binding contract, take my money, and then say, oh, sorry, we made a mistake. We didn't have authority to sign that contract.
So he took your money? He took like your
$130,000.
Wow.
Because I sold my California home. Mary was saying she sold her Michigan home. I sold my California home. And I was getting $2,000 per month from California, and that was my livelihood. So I would never have to take money from Dinosaur Adventureland. I didn't come there to take. I came there to give. I did not want a paycheck. I never asked the ministry money for my car, my food, nothing. I paid my own bills, okay? And so I decided I would sell my Cali house and buy Alabama properties, because you can get several Alabama properties for the price of one Cali house and still have money left over to invest in our dream, building Dinosaur Adventureland, okay? So I had $130,000 that I was going to buy a rental property so that I could get my income stream reestablished. Okay, I was looking for another $2,000 a month from Alabama instead of Cali. And I had the idea, honey, what if instead of buying a rental property, what if I put that $130,000 into Dinosaur Adventureland, and then you guys can give me a rent check every month and we can build our dream and I can still have my income stream. And he said, let me talk to Ernie. So they wrote up a contract, which was signed May 1st, 2019. And I began spending $130,000 in the ministry. And so in October of 2020, when the body slam happened, is when they said, oh, there's no contract. We didn't have authority to sign that contract. Those were all donations, Cindy. A good Christian wouldn't ask for her donations back. You're being an Indian giver and a greedy bitch. Yes, Kent Hovind called his wife a greedy bitch after she had donated. So I donated $90,000 before the contract, $90,000. Then the contract, I gave another $130,000. Okay, California homes are worth a lot of money. So a total of $210,000 he had of my money. And he had never given me anything, except for I think one time he gave me some laborers to help fix a roof and stuff like that. But he's going to call me a greedy.
Mm-hmm.
And
you're you bring the money, right?
I was losing it. This level of betrayal, like Mary said, we came to give. We came to serve God. I wanted to be a missionary. I was there to be a missionary, and to be treated like this blew my mind. And yes, I did yell. I yelled.
And then he physically abused you as well.
So part of what he did with the whole bipolar slander was record me. Okay. He was trying
after
to.
She's upset. In other words, Cindy, you got to tell me, it would be after he would get her, she would get upset because of what was going on. And it's like he would talk to her and get her really upset. And then he'd start recording her.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then he'd go around campus and play the recording for everybody, saying, see, she had another episode. She goes off the handle. I'm a good husband. I don't know. She's mentally unstable. Mm-hmm. He was setting up a case against me for a year. Okay. So that morning of the body slam, he came into the kitchen while I was making breakfast, and he says, I'd be happy to go over all your texts with you, Cindy, but I'm going to record the conversation for my protection. And I could just smell the weasel in his voice. And I got very offended. I said, you don't need protecting from me. I'm here. I'm your number one fan. So like Mary said, there's a Jekyll and a Hyde. I was madly in love with the good Kent Hovind. And I was just discovering this bad Kent Hovind. And one of the things that happens in that type of abuse is there's something called cognitive dissonance, where you see the good and you see the bad, and you shake your head and you say, no, that bad couldn't have just happened, because I see this good most of the time.
Yeah, I want to say something about that. When it comes to something called perfect possession, there's the possession of a person that can happen, devil possession that can happen, where it is imperfect. This is information that I've picked up from people like Bill Schneblin and stuff like this. When you're imperfectly possessed, there is a lot of sign of struggle. There is just a lot of harm that comes to you. When you're perfectly possessed, you're fine. You are perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong. You are a normal person. But then every once in a while, something happens and you see someone different behind the eyes of this person that you know. Someone different behind the eyes of a loved one. I think it was Bill Clinton, the one lady that he assaulted or whatever. And she said that in that moment, she did not recognize him. He just turned he was just someone else. Not that his features changed, but she didn't know the man that she was looking at. Oh yeah, and by the way, shapeshifters are real. Okay. We'll talk about that sometime. I believe the Soul Trap just came out with an episode dealing about subterranean peoples. But anyways, we'll talk about all of that crazy stuff at some point. Remember, this is a conspiracy channel as well. So King James Onlyism with a side of conspiracy. It comes in a lot. And it keeps looking more biblically relevant all the time. We'll deal with that some other time. We'll keep going.
No. There had to be a misunderstanding. No, this can't be true. Okay, so there's a lot of that going on. Anyway, it was a very big trigger for me, and he knew it. And so I did yell. I did cry. I did swear. I did try and grab his phone so that he would stop the recording. And I did not assault him. I did not hit him. I just tried to reach for the phone. And when I missed, I wasn't going to go farther because he's twice my size and he would have me thrown in jail. at that point, he had already threatened to throw me in jail before. So I knew I wasn't going to try anything physical with him because I would end up in jail. So all I did was try and grab for the phone. And he somehow got me elevated, and where my feet were not under me. And then he took his hand and put it on my chest and pushed me onto the tile floor, body slam, to where I got the wind knocked out of me. My chest, I couldn't take a deep breath because of the pain. I couldn't twist, I couldn't lift. And at the time I was devastated. I was furious because of his voice. He didn't say, "Oh, honey, I'm sorry, let me help you up." He said, "Cindy, what are you doing?" Continuing on with his act. So yeah, that infuriated me. So I saw my mom. My mom was living on campus at the time, and she had a caregiver. And I saw her about 15 minutes later, and I was not going to tell her because I didn't want to traumatize her. And she noticed that I wasn't moving properly and that I couldn't breathe properly. And so I did tell her, and I said, "Mommy, I don't want you to tell people because I don't want Kent Hovind's reputation to be ruined, I thought at that time maybe he would repent, say sorry, pay for my medical bills. And then it became clear that he was never going to repent. He was going to lie and slander. He was going to refuse to pay even half the bills. I came to him at one point and I said, "Honey, I'm sorry I swore. I'm sorry I yelled at you. I'm sorry I tried to grab your phone. I will pay half the medical bills, but I would like you to tell the truth and I would like you to pay half." He refused that as well. And then things just started escalating to where Steve threatened me with a gun. Steve vandalized my home. Kent wouldn't deal with any of it. He was basically aiding and abetting Steve and abusing me. Kent used Steve to abuse me. Kent used Brady Byram to abuse me. Kent used Ernie to abuse me. And so I realized I am not in a marriage. I am in enemy territory and I have to go.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That can be very hard to share. I understand where you're coming from. I think it's very brave you're able to share this and get this message out to warn people about this man and how they're using money inappropriately. So thank you for that. I think it's very brave of you to do this. Mary.
Yes.
Why, in your opinion, I mean, we're doing this because we're trying to warn people about this ministry and this man.
Mm-hmm.
What do people need to be aware about Kent Hovind? Why they should not be donating there? Why they should not be spending their time there? What is the warning you want to give? And then we'll go back to Cindy with the same question.
Well, I think, first of all, when a man has a 501c3, he's supposed to have a board, and the board are supposed to be involved in what's taking place on the campus. That's not the case. He has Ernie land. None of his board members have ever been on. In fact, most of them were never even on the property. He used to have Bill Sardi, who's no longer there. He had a pastor lawyer up in Michigan who never came. He had Lady Di, who's, 80-something years of age. And he had Ernie Land and Ernie Land's son for years. And I used to tell him, your board is really not doing anything here, Kent. Boards are supposed to do stuff, you go to them, you say, "Oh, we want to raise money for a building," and you do a fundraiser. Well, that's not what was happening, folks. The money comes in, it goes to Ernie. Ernie does whatever he does with it, and then he hands Kent an envelope of cash. Now, at the same time, Kent's not a board member, and he's a volunteer. He was not taking a salary. He was not paying taxes. He was living in a house on the property for free, as was I, which I found out is not legal. Nothing was being done by the book. And so as I became more aware of how this whole, I call it the Kent and Ernie show was running, it was just really Kent and Ernie just taking in a lot of money In the meantime, there's no plan. When Kent was convincing me to marry him, he told me that this was going to be the alternative to Disney for families. He told me the lake was going to have a huge ark on it, kind of like the one out in Kentucky. He told me the ark was going to be beautiful, and it was going to be 3 stories, and it was going to have an atrium and a health center. He told me he was going to build a huge dinosaur, and inside the dinosaur would be like a bookstore and a place where people could buy gifts and T-shirts, and then the tail was going to be a water slide. He gave me this huge, beautiful explanation of what Dinosaur Adventureland was going to be, and he told me that he had all the plans and everything was all drawn up. So when I moved out there, I expected to see some sort of plan, some kind of planning committee. There was nothing. It was simply Kent getting money and saying, okay, let's build this. Okay, let's build that. And he was using volunteers who come, whether they're skilled or not, whether they're insured or not, doesn't matter. Whether they have a license or not, doesn't matter. Whether they're 20 or 16 or 40, doesn't matter. They're building stuff. They're doing stuff and building stuff, and he's in charge. He is the foreman and the boss in charge. And
Mm-hmm. One thing that I want to add to that too is if Kent wanted it to be just like Disneyland, or if it's supposed to be the alternative to Disneyland for Christians, you're gonna want to be really, 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 really careful about that one. Thinking about all the stuff that goes on with that. Ay, 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 ay. And then if you want to make your place like Disneyland, think about that. Wow. Okay. Wow. It's just heavy stuff that is just awful. Just as a note, I've included a podcast down below, the hey Carl, the confessionals, and they have an episode where a lady's talking about her involvement with sex magic and stuff, and Saya and all that, and yeah, so and her experiences at Disneyland and things. And think about where kids are, because it's easy to get a lot of kids through a place where there are already a lot of kids. It's also a better spot to pick up kids where there are a lot of kids. And kids might not go missing, but maybe they might go missing for half an hour. A lot of people have testified about that. Bill Schnevelin's even talked about it, where kids will just disappear for a few minutes, and then they'll be back. Not long enough for their parents to really be concerned. And things happen in those few minutes. There's a man that goes to my church that went to Disneyland, took his his son. And they're just kind of, there, and all of a sudden his son takes off running. Straight line through a crowd of people. And he's just like, what is going on? Faster than he thought his child could run. And he chases him through the crowd, naturally. He finally catches up to him, but it's because he's yanking on a doorknob to the Club of 33. Guys, we've got to be super careful of our kids, what we allow them to do, where we allow them to go. I don't want to start a witch hunt, but I'm saying, guys, we need to pray against the powers of darkness. We need to be aware of things. One of the things that used to be in my introduction that I've cut out because of a lack of time in the intro is that subscribing to this channel is guaranteed to put a rash on the backside of the Illuminati mole in your church. It's not necessarily guaranteed, but it could. It couldn't hurt to subscribe. But the fact that more than likely there's a mole in your church. Where is this mole getting his stuff? How are victims and drugs getting out there to these people in good fundamental creation churches? How better to do it than through a very, very, very popular ministry that is child-oriented? We may listen a little bit longer to this. I've already mentioned that the whole video is in the link in the description. I may use this video as the end card just so you guys can go over to that. I've heard some other crazy reports that could be slander, definitely, against Dr. Hovind that just sound satanically perverted. And they could be, because there are a lot of people that don't like him because of his ministry. But I don't know. I know that in Satan's Underground, the book, there were a lot of apparently pastors and priests and people like this that would use Victor's services, we'll say. I don't know if they were pretending to be pastors. Guys, I don't know. This whole Bible version conspiracy thing has dragged me into a rabbit hole. I will tell you that. Gail Ripplinger wrote her book New Age Bible Versions with the assumption that Bible translators that are Christian have good intentions and they're simply deceived. I don't know if I'm prepared to say that that is always the case. I know I'm not prepared to say that it's always the case. And I get more and more worried every day that I look into this stuff that we are up to our eyeballs in this wickedness. The Bible talks about the wolves in sheep's clothing. It talks about the wells without water. It talks about the infiltration of the church by evil. It can happen in our own hearts. It can happen in our own bodies. It can happen in our own families. It can happen in our own schools, in our own churches. It can happen anywhere. Guys, we need to have constant vigilance, or we will pay the price. We've been going for 2 hours and 10 minutes. I believe I'm going to cut it off here, just so this can stay a listenable length. We may revisit this at some point. We will see. Halloween's coming up, by the way. Be careful out there, guys. We'll be doing a live stream close to Halloween on October 27th. That'll be talking about the vulnerable verses in the King James Bible regarding contradictions. Talking mostly from the Book of Bible Problems by Jardis Bow, which is out of print and highly unavailable these days, and Dr. Ruckman's Book of Errors in the King James Bible. Dr. Ruckman's son, years ago, maybe in 2008, 2009, I forget. I'm sorry, guys, this is such a dark, depressing episode. I'm sorry. He killed his whole family, Dr. Ruckman's son did. And he was a successful professor, political commentator, family man. Apparently killed his whole family and himself. I don't know that that's the case. It may not be the case. Things like that can be set up so that it looks like he did. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. People can be programmed to do things that they could think that are unthinkable, even to the person. They literally can be. People's minds can be split into multiple personalities that are separate from each other. And then you gotta wonder how much of the information about projects like Sex Magic and MK Ultra and places like this, how much of that is just set up to cover up what's actually going on in those kind of things, because that's what you think about, is the horrible, awful stuff, and that also keeps it from being exposed because, oh well, this just couldn't possibly be true, and it's just so many things to think about. The synagogue of Satan, like we read about in Revelation 2, Satan's seat, the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. Guys, there were churches back then that embraced the deeds of the Nicolaitans. Apparently the Nicolaitans were like the worst of the Gnostic cults. And they were in Christianity. And they had corrupted so many things, and they were doing just horrible, horrible stuff. Nicolaitans, I guess, if it's the thing that God narrows down to this thing I hate. The Ephesian church hated it, but it was in other churches. Guys, wolves literally eat sheep. When a wolf comes in sheep's clothing, it gets hungry once in a while. And we need to be so careful. And we've got to be careful to not let innocent people suffer. Innocent people that are victims, and people that could be innocent victims of a witch hunt. Don't get desensitized to it. Exercise your senses, sharpen them up, make sure that they're ready to discern good and evil. Pray to God for discernment. And guys. If you have any personal testimonies, any thoughts, anything that you want to add, please leave a comment down below this video or email me. The email address is invisible right beneath me So let me put down Inspiring Philosophies video for right now. Right there. BibleVersionConspiracy@gmail.com. I appreciate y'all's listening ears. I appreciate you tuning in this evening. Again, like I've said before, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like your King James onlyism with a dash of conspiracy. So we'll talk more next Friday. Try to get out more videos. It's a little hard. It's a little hard right now. Things are scattered. Things are, like I've said before, I've got a tent with multiple corners that I'm trying to peg down each corner, and it's a gale force wind out there. And yeah, trying to nail all those things down is not easy. But guys, I think we're improving at least 1% every stream. And like I think it was Aristotle, possibly, who said never to discourage someone who makes progress, no matter how slow it is. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't be too suspicious. Have grace with people. Seek spiritual help when you find somebody that needs help. Find real help for people. We highly recommend Bride International Ministries. We highly recommend Bill Schneblin's Deliverance Ministry. There are many good, legit people that are doing a good, legit hurt to the kingdom of darkness as we speak. Keep them in mind. We'll be providing links to these different types of ministries on our upcoming website, and you can email us for more information about how to find hope, how to find healing. Just, guys, this is just such a subject. Wow. And here I am at 12:20 in the morning, running my mouth like a fool. Alrighty. Well, we'll end it there. Thank you, all 6 of you that have stuck around through this entire live stream. You guys are champs. You're marathon runners. You guys are amazing. God bless each of you. Have a great evening. Check out the links in the description. If you guys have any inspiration for me, anything that you guys want to see me discuss on the live streams, designs you'd like to get on some of the merchandise we offer, let me know. Shoot me an email. Send me a message. You guys know how to get a hold of me. I'd appreciate it. God bless all of you. Keep your open mind next to your open Bible so you don't lose either of them. Both of those things you don't want to lose. And read your Bible like the devil's after it. Because he is. And it truly is a Bible version conspiracy. Have a great night. Stay safe. Take care. And like Tony Merkel says, the truth will make you free. But first, it'll piss you off. And that's pretty much true. God bless.